Hello, I'm Tom Booker, Senior Instructor at Broadway Family Karate. We're going to talk a little bit about how to use your home video tutorials as effectively as possible. And you don't mind, I'll refer to my notes from time to time. I'd like to be as thorough as possible in this discussion. Now, video is certainly nothing new as a training tool. It's been in use for a long time. Some of the best martial arts instruction videos were made in the 1980s and the 1990s, once video became a practical tool. And those remain very good videos to this day. Video is still extensively used in martial arts instruction. I have a colleague with a school in Western Australia who, because people are so dispersed there, he works with a lot of his students by video. They get together when they can, every few weeks, sometimes every few months. But in the interim, they work together via video, and it works very effectively. And it's really a call back to the way martial arts were taught traditionally, not just karate, but many other East Asian martial arts. Your instructor may have been somebody on the other side of the island from you. You lived in Okinawa. So that you would only get to work with them when you made a trip of a couple of days on foot. So your visits with your instructor, your direct one-on-one lessons, were fairly limited. You would meet with your instructor, you would train, he would show you some new skills, maybe the beginning of a new kata or a continuation of one that you were already working on. And then you'd return to your own home and practice that on your own for a few weeks before your next chance to work with your instructor came around. So now this is the situation we are in right now is really nothing new to karate in particular, or to taekwondo, or to martial arts training in general. And you will find that we can train together quite effectively using video as a tool. Now, all of that said, your children, if you are parents, your children are going to need your help with this, both as a training partner to hold targets and shields for them, and in helping them better understand what it is they're seeing on the video. From time to time, they may have a little trouble interpreting what they see, especially early on. I think once you have been working with this sort of tool for 2 or 3 weeks, it will start to come much more easily. But initially, your children may need a bit of extra help engaging with this form of training. If you think about it, most of us, when we engage with video, it's as an entertainment medium, and it's very, very passive. I will sit there and I will watch a movie. And I'm not asked to do anything more than just watch. Gosh, who'd have thought it? Darth Vader is Luke Skywalker's dad. Wow. That's about all a movie asks of me. It's just a little bit of my attention, but no involvement beyond that. Using video as a training tool, that is a bit different. We're going to be much more active, much more involved in how we use this. And what we're going to go over is just some guidelines that may help you with that involvement. So, with the video tutorials on skills, your first step, download the written guide to that tutorial. You can refer to this as you go along if you've got questions about what you see in the video. We'll have a written tutorial guide with each of these videos. So start by downloading that first, just so that you'll have that at hand if there's any question about what it is you're seeing up there on the screen, what's going on. I think you'll find it helpful. Now, the next thing I would do is just, with the video tutorial, watch it through once from the beginning without trying to follow along, without trying to do anything, just to see what we'll be working with together. This will also let you know the training tools you may need for that particular lesson, so that you'll be able to get those and have them on hand before you actually start working with these skills yourself. So you're not having to stop in the middle of a lesson and try to hunt up something you need to do a back fist strike or an open hand strike or whatever it may be. You've already got it there to hand and can just keep going. Let's see here. Now, after that first run through, go back to the beginning, replay the video, working through one skill at a time. I would watch the section on the skill first, then go back to the beginning of that section and work through it following along with your instructor. Then move on to the next skill in the same way. Watch it through first, then take it back to the beginning of that skill, and then work through it with your instructor. Go through the lesson that way until you've completed your lesson. Now, the second time you work through your lesson, you'll probably find that you can simply start at the beginning and work through the lesson from beginning to end, section by section, only having to pause or go back every once in a while. You'll get through faster and more smoothly the second time you work the lesson, say a day or two after the first. And it will be even more true should you choose to work through your lesson a third time. You should find it comes even easier to you then. The first time is going to be the most difficult. After that, you'll start to get the hang of it. It should go a lot more smoothly. Now, training equipment. For our honor students, you should be able to manage most of what we're doing with the training equipment you already have. That arm shield that we use for short sword and shield, the padded swords themselves, you should be able to adapt those to doing most of the skills, if not all of them, we'll be working with. They can all be used in a variety of different ways. We will try to demonstrate some on the video tutorials we provide for you, but use your own imagination working at home. You may have something on hand that will adapt nicely. Now, one thing I did want to mention, there is one of our suppliers who are offering equipment to ship directly to you, so that if there's a specific piece of purpose-made training equipment you'd really like to have, then you should be able to get that. I'll be sending out information on that in the next couple of days. But a lot of this, you've either got it or you can improvise it at home. For our fundamental students, again, much you can improvise at home. You might want to get one or two pieces of purpose-made training equipment for yourself. Most of the stuff is not real complicated, it's not real expensive. And it's well designed, it's durable, it should last you a good long time. All right. With the assertiveness lesson from Speak Up and Get Along, the way I would suggest approaching this is watch the video of the lesson first. I will be going over what we will be talking about during that week. And then I would read the lesson over together from the book. The book is Speak Up and Get Along by Scott Cooper. Use the video again if you feel like it, but reading aloud from a book is a great way to interact with your child and impart information. Now, we have been telling stories to our children as a way of passing on knowledge and understanding, as a way of bonding with each other for many thousands of years, well before there was such a thing as a printed book. We do it that way because it works. So I wouldn't be shy about doing that. Yeah, by all means, watch the video. And then I'd go over it together again. You just read from the book together. And then ask each other questions about the lesson. Now, I'll suggest a few to kind of get things started, but you may well come up with others on your own based on your own immediate experience. And just repeat this as needed, especially the story examples that are part of this, like Gonzalo's story that we talked about together in last week's lesson. You know, it may be that your child will want to hear this more than once. That's just fine. It means things are going well. And be prepared to explain and adapt as you go, especially for our younger children. They may need your help in filling in some of the context based on your much greater experience of life. What's going on? Why is this happening? Why would somebody do this? Now, with our Warrior Personal Strength lesson, I would approach that in fundamentally the same way. I would look at the video first. I would read through the story together. And then, again, I will suggest some questions that I think you can use, and some others may well occur to you. Our current discussion is on Dwight Eisenhower and the personal strength of self-control. Ike, as he was called, struggled with self-control all of his life. And he knew it was something he had to work with. He had a very hot temper, legendarily hot. And there were people who would occasionally deliberately try to provoke him to see if they could get him to lose his temper, just to see the show. But most of the time, he was able to keep his temper under control. He was able to use self-control, even when dealing with some very, very provocative people and situations. But something more about these personal strength lessons. These are all about real people who faced real problems and how they dealt with them, sometimes successfully and sometimes not so successfully. Sometimes they made mistakes and learned from their mistakes. But the nice thing about working with real people, somebody like Ike, is that you can find out more about him. Especially if you are home and looking for productive uses for your time, wanting something you can work on together with your child, you can certainly look up and do research on Eisenhower, on Ike. You can find out quite a lot about it. We're just touching on a few incidents in his early life. There's quite a bit to Ike's story, and it's worth knowing. And something else that you can do is find pictures. We'll make some pictures available to you as part of the written part of this lesson. But I think you'll find if you want to have a little fun and go hunting for pictures, that you can turn up some really, really interesting ones. Especially at the place to start with Ike would be at the Eisenhower Presidential Library out in Abilene. They have a good online presence with a good collection of photographs there. And many from his early days as a child and as a junior officer in the Army. So I would suggest doing that. I think it helps all of us to connect up to these stories, to look at the picture of the person that we're talking about, especially if you can get a picture of them from about the time this story happened. And with Ike, we can certainly do that. Now, if ever you have any questions about working with any of the skills or any of the ideas in our video tutorials, don't hesitate to get in touch with me. Just give me a call, send me an email, let me know what's going on, and we will arrange to meet by either, right now, probably by phone, and just talk through it and get you back onto a productive track with this. But I don't think there's a wrong way to use these resources. I think what is important is that we do use them and that we do keep in mind that this is not actually an unusual way to train in the martial arts at all. Karate started on Okinawa. It's not a Japanese discipline. It's from the Ryukyu Islands. And the Japanese picked it up from the Okinawans. What the Japanese added were group classes. And again, that's a fairly new idea. Group lessons in karate, they seem to start sometime in the late 1920s. So less than 100 years old. It's certainly a worthwhile way of working, but the point is, it's not the only way of practicing martial arts. Now, we can work with this doing solo training and using these video tutorials to move things along until such time as we're able to work together one-on-one in person again. So I would urge you to consider this to be quite doable. It's just a matter of getting used to working this way. And I think after the first 2 or 3 weeks, this is going to come much more smoothly, much more naturally for all of us as we work together. Well, I'd like to thank you very much for your time, for joining me for this. I will write up my notes and make those available in written form. Again, if there's any of this that you would like to consult again, just to have it in writing so you can refer to. And I think you'll find this, again, a very worthwhile way to practice your karate together as a family. Again, thank you very much for joining me.